New Fortress Energy founder and CEO Wes Edens has his hands all over the economy through infrastructure spending and energy, and of course through sports. He is the owner, after all, of the Milwaukee Bucks. But we started our conversation today talking about energy, talking about natural gas. He is a big believer in it. So I asked him about the tremendous collapse in prices. That's where we started.
You look at the U.S. Now is producing about 13 billion barrels of oil a day, right? Most amount by any country in the history of the world. And with that comes a lot of associated gas. And so you have the byproduct of all that oil production is a lot of increased gas production. And so if you can't evacuate it and you don't have demand for it locally, prices go down. And that's basically what's happened.
Yeah. How long do you think it takes for it to recover?
You know, I think that, the oil companies have become so good at extracting, right? It's not really exploration anymore. It's really just processing. And so I think it's going to continue. And I think that for the gas companies domestically, I think getting connected to the international markets is actually really important because that's really where the incremental demand is.
You've been importing LNG for a while. You're reasonably new to the export game. I'm wondering what you make of these reports that the Biden administration is reviewing the criteria it uses to approve new export projects. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that they're focused on trying to understand the implications for increased fossil fuel production and what that means for the renewable kind of goals and the clean energy goals that they have. I feel strongly that the U.S.'s position as a gas exporter gives us tremendous standing in the world. It's a big geopolitical benefit for us. It's obviously a big economic benefit. So I'm hopeful that actually it will continue kind of as planned, but this is something they're obviously reviewing.
Yeah, you're big in hydrogen too. You're building a plant down in Beaumont, correct?
We are, and so we're in discussions actually with the government. They put out rules on how these projects will work, right? And the key to the whole thing is the use of renewables and how connected they have to be. So, for example, if you have to connect them 24 hours a day to renewables, like right now it's a little dark outside, the solar wouldn't be working very well out here. So we think there's some modifications to the rules as they've been promulgated that would be constructive for it. I am a big believer that decarbonizing industry in particular can really happen effectively with hydrogen. So I'm an optimist about it, but we're having discussions right now.
What role does nuclear play in this conversation? Are we still a not in my backyard country?
There hasn't been a new nuclear plant built in this country since 1977, which is kind of crazy. Last year I was in Singapore and I saw in a dry dock a nuclear submarine. And I asked the guy around the shipyard how many nuclear-powered vessels there are in the world. And the answer was 650, which is an amazing number, I thought. And so I think that the notion of whether or not small nuclear reactors can work efficiently and safely has been answered. And so I am a huge proponent of nuclear power. And I think that it has a long ways to go. I'm an optimist about it. But in this country right now, it's a very, very hard thing to develop.
How do we get over that last hurdle?
I think this is where government can play a huge role. I really do. I think that a lot of it is regulatory. When you look at the timelines it's taken to get permits and what it's taken to make it all happen, it hasn't. But I'll give you a simple math example. If you take a 300 megawatt power plant, conventionally, a gas plant, maybe it costs $300 million to build it. If you paid $10 for your gas, that's another $300 million a year in fuel. So run that for 20 years, right? So 20 times 300. I've heard estimates that a 300 megawatt small nuclear plant could cost $4 billion, which is about the same in terms of what you're going to spend on that, and actually, obviously much, much cleaner. So I think the raw economics could be very, very powerful, and I think that if the government got behind it and tried to kind of develop a handful of these things just to see what the best technology is, I think it's got real promise.
You're a big player in infrastructure.
Yes.
Obviously, your rail, the Brightline in Florida from Miami to Orlando.
Yep.
How's that been going?
It's going great. We opened the service a few years ago. We opened the long haul service from Orlando to Miami just at the end of September, so just a couple months. And we've had every month steadily increases in ridership. It's actually a very, very significant increase in ridership. And people love the service. The producer scores of it are off the charts, and who doesn't love a train? So it's been a great start to the service.
I guess enough so that you've turned your attention west to Vegas to California. You got a big grant from the Biden administration too. Where's the status of that? Yeah,
so we were fortunate enough to apply and be awarded a $3 billion grant to build that HighSpeed Rail. It's as I call it, it's kind of version 2.0. Version 1.0 we built basically on an existing railway for the most part. version 2.0 in California and Nevada. We're going to build right in the middle of I-15. So it'll be literally built in the median of the highway. It's 100% permitted. It's 100% of the right-of-way. Now we've got a big chunk of the financing. So we're hopeful to break ground in that in the next couple of months.